Let's jump right in. Today, we're capturing the essentials of a true masterpiece in 8 minutes or less. Robert Cialdini's absolute classic, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. You can really think of this explainer as a hacker's guide to the human mind. We're going to explore exactly why we say yes without even thinking, and how compliance professionals literally use our own psychology against us.
What's really fascinating here is that the author himself, a highly renowned experimental social psychologist, openly admits his own vulnerability right out of the gate. He confesses, "All my life I've been a patsy." And it was actually this personal frustration, constantly ending up with unwanted magazine subscriptions or buying tickets to the sanitation workers' ball, that drove him to go undercover. He infiltrated sales organizations, fundraising agencies, and ad firms just to study firsthand how these compliance pros manipulate us into saying yes.
Section 1. The Psychology of Yes. Wired for Efficiency.
To understand human behavior, we have to look at what Cialdini calls fixed action patterns, or click-whir responses. So picture a mother turkey for a second. She'll ruthlessly attack a stuffed enemy polecat, right? But if that exact same stuffed polecat has a small recorder inside that plays the cheep-cheep sound of a baby turkey, she doesn't just stop attacking. She'll actually gather the enemy underneath her. That cheep-cheep sound is a trigger feature. Click, the tape is activated, whir, the automatic maternal behavior just rolls out. Well, as it turns out, humans have these pre-programmed tapes too. We have to rely on these shortcuts because our world is simply too complex to analyze every single detail. But as we'll see, those shortcuts can be easily exploited.
While he was undercover, Cialdini found that even though there are thousands of different compliance tactics out there, the vast majority actually fall into just 6 basic categories. These are the 6 weapons of influence used by practitioners to trigger our human click-whir responses. And over the next few minutes, we're going to break them all down.
Section 2. Reciprocation and Consistency. Both of these ruthlessly exploit our deepest social conditioning.
Have you ever felt weirdly obligated to someone just because they did you a small favor? That's the rule of reciprocation. It states that we are socially obligated to repay, in kind, what another person has provided us. It's so deeply ingrained in our culture that we have this overpowering distaste for anyone considered a moocher or an ingrate. And compliance professionals absolutely know this. Whether it's the Hare Krishnas pressing a free flower into your hand at the airport before asking for a donation, or a researcher buying you a 25-cent Coke before asking you to buy a raffle ticket, receiving a favor triggers a powerful psychological debt. It can literally make us comply with people we actively dislike.
Okay, so this rule powers a subtle but frankly devastating tactic known as rejection then retreat. Cialdini actually experienced this firsthand when a Boy Scout asked him to buy a $5 circus ticket. He declined. The boy then retreated and said, "Well, if you don't want to buy any tickets, how about buying some of our big chocolate bars? They're only $1 each." Now, Cialdini didn't even like chocolate, but because the boy made a concession, retreating from $5 down to $1, Cialdini's click-whir response forced him to reciprocate with a concession of his own. He bought the chocolate.
Which brings us right to consistency. Compliance experts use the foot-in-the-door technique to take massive advantage of this. They'll start by getting you to make a really small, trivial commitment, like, say, signing a beautification petition. This seemingly innocent act actually alters your self-image. You now view yourself as a public-spirited citizen. And once that internal shift happens, you are practically guaranteed to comply with a much larger related request later on, just to maintain consistency with that new self-image.
Section 3. Social proof and liking. The intense desire to fit in.
It's a great question, isn't it? I mean, we all claim to absolutely hate canned laughter on sitcoms. It sounds fake, it's unnatural, yet TV executives keep using it because research definitively proves it makes audiences laugh longer and more often. It works entirely because of social proof. This principle states that we determine what's correct by finding out what other people think is correct. When we hear that laughter, our brains use it as a shortcut. We just assume the joke is funny because others are laughing, completely bypassing our own critical judgment.
Now, social proof requires a very specific formula to be at its most lethal. When a situation is ambiguous, we panic and look to others. But we don't just look to anyone, we look to people who are similar to us. Uncertainty plus similarity equals maximum social proof. It creates this highly infectious momentum where we blindly follow the lead of individuals who are just like us, assuming they must know the correct behavior.
And this builds directly into the liking principle. Naturally, we most prefer to say yes to the requests of someone we know and like. But the crazy part is, total strangers can totally manufacture this affection. Compliance professionals use physical attractiveness, they'll claim a similarity in background, or just use simple familiarity to win us over. We are practically defenseless against compliments. Just ask Joe Girard, the world's greatest car salesman.
His entire multi-million-dollar strategy consisted of offering a fair price and sending out 13,000 holiday cards every single month that simply said, "I like you."
Section 4. Authority and scarcity. Deference and FOMO. So, from a very young age, we are trained that obedience to authority is the correct thing to do. This is directed deference. And sure, often this makes total sense. Experts generally offer good counsel. But compliance professionals use the symbols of authority to trigger our mindless obedience. From the gray lab coat worn by the researcher in the famous Milgram shock experiments to a well-tailored business suit on a con artist, symbols of authority quite literally strip away our logic. We stop thinking and we just follow orders.
We are all super familiar with the visual barrage of limited time offer and last chance ads. This is the scarcity principle in action. We intuitively know that things that are difficult to possess are usually better. But profiteers weaponize this by creating an artificial urgency. And this weapon works so incredibly well because scarcity causes a visceral, physical agitation. When we see something we want becoming less available, the blood comes up, our focus narrows, and our rational side retreats entirely. Logic just goes right out the window.
Scarcity derives its incredible power from a concept called psychological reactance. Quite simply, we absolutely hate to lose our freedoms. When an item, an opportunity, or even just a piece of information becomes scarce, our freedom to access it is threatened. Our immediate, knee-jerk reaction is to fight against that restriction by craving the items significantly more than we did before. We see this in literally everything from toddlers fighting over a toy to grown adults rushing to buy a car just because someone else is currently looking at it.
Section 5. Defending your decisions. Stopping the patsy. Now that we've exposed the tricks behind the curtain, how do we actually protect ourselves?
First things first, we must pause that click-whir response. When you feel the pressure of authority, for instance, you need to catch yourself and ask, wait, is this authority truly an expert? This simple quick question forces your brain out of its automatic tape and back into active processing. You start to question the reality and the relevance of a person's credentials, effectively separating the symbol of authority from true expertise.
Next, we have to redefine the situation. If you're offered a free sample at the supermarket or a gift from a stranger, accept it for what it is. If it's a genuine favor, great, be prepared to return it. But if you recognize that the free gift is actually a calculated compliance tactic, just a trick to get you to buy something, you instantly strip away the rule of reciprocity. The rule says, favors are to be met with favors. It does not say that tricks must be met with favors. You are no longer socially obligated to give absolutely anything back.
Why all of this matters right now is that we are living in a totally unprecedented era. The ever-accelerating pace, the complexity, and the sheer information crush of modern life is forcing us to rely on these primitive single-feature shortcuts more than ever before. We simply do not have the time or the cognitive energy to fully analyze every single decision. We genuinely need our click-whir responses just to survive. And because we rely on them so heavily, the profiteers who exploit them are only going to be increasingly successful, unless we learn to spot their tricks.
So I want to leave you with this question to ponder. Which weapon of influence will you fall for tomorrow? Will it be the salesperson complimenting your outfit? The limited time banner on a website? Or maybe just a small favor from a colleague? Think really carefully about your own automatic blind spots. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to In 8 Minutes and never miss what matters.